The stranger in my reflection, I've always believed that mirrors don't lie. They reflect what's in front of them. Nothing more, nothing less. But what if one day the reflection starts behaving differently? What if the person you see in the mirror isn't just your reflection, but something else entirely? It all started on a normal morning. I had just woken up, groggy-eyed and half asleep, dragging myself toward the bathroom. I splashed water on my face and looked up. For a second, just a second, I felt like something was off. My face looked the same, but the eyes looked sharper, almost watching me back with a strange stillness. I brushed it off, thinking I was just tired. But then it happened again. And again. Each time, the feeling grew stronger. It wasn't just my imagination anymore. My reflection didn't always move in sync with me. Sometimes it was slower. Sometimes it moved before I did. I told a few people, but they laughed it off. It's all in your head, they said. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was overthinking. Or maybe I was the only one seeing what was really happening. I started avoiding mirrors, covering them up at night. But reflections are everywhere. Windows, water, even a spoon could catch a glimpse. And every time I saw myself, I felt like I was being watched. Not by someone else, but by another version of me. A version that didn't blink when I did. A version that smiled when I was scared. I wish I could tell you it stopped, that it was just a weird phase. But something changed the night I caught my reflection moving when I was standing perfectly still. And that was just the beginning. I didn't sleep much that night. I just kept staring at the mirror across the room, too afraid to move, too afraid to blink. What if it moved again? What if it wasn't really a reflection anymore? I wrapped the mirror with an old bedsheet in the middle of the night. It sounds stupid now, I know, but in that moment, it felt necessary. I couldn't let it see me. Or maybe I didn't want to see it. Over the next few days, things got weirder. I started noticing little changes in my routine that I couldn't explain. I'd place my toothbrush on one side of the sink, and somehow it would be on the other side the next morning. My closet door, which I always kept shut, would be slightly open when I woke up. Once, I found my phone camera open like it had been recording. I never touched it. Or at least, I don't remember touching it. I began to doubt myself. Was I sleepwalking? Losing time? Or was something else going on? The more I tried to stay away from mirrors, the more I started to feel like they were pulling me back. I'd catch myself glancing at dark windows at night, trying not to, but doing it anyway. And every time I looked, I'd feel it again. That strange lag, that half-second delay. Like my reflection was thinking before it followed me. One afternoon, I visited my friend Sam. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. I didn't go into the full story, just hinted that I was feeling off. But he noticed. He said I looked different, a little tense. Asked if I could use his bathroom, and that's when happened again. I walked in, turned on the light, and saw myself in the mirror above the sink. But this time, my reflection was already smiling. I wasn't. I didn't even feel like smiling. My heart dropped. I backed away and called out to Sam, but he didn't answer. I turned around quickly. He wasn't there. I was alone. And for a second, I wondered if I had even come here at all. That's when I noticed something even stranger. The reflection, it didn't disappear when I turned away. It just kept standing there, watching me. I left Sam's place in a hurry. I didn't even tell him goodbye. I just needed to get out. The smile in the mirror, my smile, was still burned into my mind. It wasn't warm or friendly. It was wrong. Like someone wearing my face but not understanding how human emotions work. It was cold. Like it knew something I didn't. That night, I didn't turn on any lights in my apartment. I avoided every reflective surface. Even my phone screen, I kept it face down. I tried to sleep, but every little noise made me jump. The ticking of the clock, the creak in the hallway, even the fridge humming. Everything felt louder, closer. I was too scared to close my eyes, but more scared of what I'd see if I opened them. Over the next few days, I started to feel like I was losing track of time. I'd look at the clock and realize hours had passed, but I had no memory of what I'd been doing. I'd check my messages and see replies I didn't remember sending. Once, I even got a call from someone asking why I hung up on them. I never made that call. The people around me noticed too. At work, my boss pulled me aside and said I looked off. Not tired, different. He said I didn't sound like myself during a client call. My best friend texted me, asking if I was mad at her. She said I'd been acting cold, distant. But I hadn't spoken to her in days. That's when it hit me. What if it wasn't just watching me? What if it was becoming me? It sounded crazy even in my own head, but I couldn't shake the thought. What if every time I looked into a mirror, I was giving it something? Access? Permission? I started thinking about how often we look at ourselves. Mirrors, windows, front cameras. Do we even realize how many chances we give our reflection to study us? Mimic us? Replace us? One night, I woke up to find the bedroom light on. I could have sworn I turned it off. I sat up, and there, across the room, was my mirror. The sheet I'd covered it with was on the floor. And I wasn't alone. I froze. My eyes locked on the mirror across the room, and my breath caught in my throat. The room was quiet, too quiet, like even the air was holding itself still. I wanted to believe it was just a draft that pulled the sheet down. Maybe I forgot to tuck it in properly. That was the logical answer. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't it. Something had changed. I could feel it in my bones. The reflection was there, standing exactly like me, but something about it felt wrong again. The posture was off. My shoulders never slouched like that. The way its head tilted was unnatural. Curious. And the eyes, those weren't mine. They were sharper now, darker, like they had seen things I hadn't. I blinked. It didn't. My heart pounded. I stood up slowly, not taking my eyes off the glass. Then it smiled. That same twisted smile. Like it was waiting. Like it was finally ready. I backed away, whispering to myself, trying to stay calm. I told myself it wasn't real, that I was just tired, stressed, maybe even sick. But as I moved, the reflection didn't follow. It stayed still, smiling, watching, almost like it was studying how I reacted. The worst part? I felt like I'd seen that face somewhere else before. Maybe in photos, maybe in dreams, maybe in my own thoughts. But it wasn't me. Not anymore. I grabbed my phone and tried to take a picture of the mirror, thinking maybe I could capture what I was seeing, get proof. But as I lifted the screen, the reflection changed. On the phone, it looked normal. My usual face, nothing strange. I looked up from the screen. There it was again, that strange version of me. Two versions, side by side, in real time. I nearly dropped my phone. Something was happening. Something real. And I didn't know how to stop it. The next few days were a blur. I tried to avoid mirrors completely. I covered everyone in my apartment, even small shiny surfaces, pots, screens, the toaster. But reflections find a way. I saw it in puddles outside, in elevator doors, even in a stranger's sunglasses as I passed them on the street. Always that same version of me, slightly off, just close enough to pass, but wrong if you looked too closely. I started wondering if anyone else could see it. Or was this just in my mind? Had I somehow created it? Invited it? Then came the night that pushed everything over the edge. I came home late, exhausted and numb, only to find the mirror in the hallway completely uncovered. The cloth I taped to it was folded neatly on the floor, as if placed there with care. And in the reflection, my apartment looked fine, but I wasn't there. I was standing in front of it, I knew I was, but the glass showed an empty hallway.
No me.
I reached out, hand trembling, and the air near the mirror felt colder than the rest of the room. The surface shimmered, just slightly, like ripples in water. And then the reflection walked into view. Slowly, calmly. But I still hadn't moved. My body refused to move, even as the figure inside the mirror took another step forward. It looked exactly like me, but more confident, more alive somehow. There was a strange calmness in its walk, like it had done this before. Like it had been waiting for this moment. The reflection stopped just inches from the glass, stared straight into my eyes, and raised its hand. Not to mimic mine, but to press its palm flat against the surface. I didn't move, but somehow, I felt the pressure on my own skin. I stumbled back, heart racing, breath short. Something had crossed a line. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a trick of the eye or a stress-induced breakdown. It was something deeper. Something real. I started to wonder if it had been watching me for longer than I realized. Maybe it had learned enough to do more than just copy. Maybe it didn't want to be trapped behind the glass anymore. I grabbed my jacket and keys and left the apartment without a plan. I just had to get out, find someone, anyone. I needed to be around real people in public, somewhere bright and busy. I ended up at a small diner across town. It was almost empty, just a few night owls sipping coffee in silence. I sat by the window, facing away from every reflection. After a few minutes, a woman in her late 40s came over and sat across from me. I didn't know her. I never met her, but she looked at me like she did. "You've seen it, haven't you?" she said, her voice low, steady. I froze. Before I could answer, she nodded to herself like she already knew. "I saw mine 10 years ago. It took my brother instead." I stared at her, stunned. She continued, "They don't just reflect us. They study us. They choose when we're vulnerable, when our sense of self starts to crack. Then they step in, slowly, quietly." My throat was dry. I couldn't speak. "They need us to look directly at them," she said. "That's the invitation. That's how they cross." I thought back to that night in my apartment. I had stared into the mirror longer than I ever had before. Questioning. Doubting. I gave it time to read me, to see the weakness. Maybe I had opened the door without even knowing. Then she leaned closer and whispered something that chilled me to the core. "Sometimes they don't want to replace you. Sometimes they want to keep you alive so you can watch." I felt the world tilt slightly. My skin went cold. I wasn't just in danger of being taken, I was in danger of being trapped. When I got home, the apartment was dark. Too quiet. I reached for the light switch, and the lights were already on. And from the hallway, I heard my own voice call out from the bedroom. "You're late." I stood frozen in the doorway, staring into the dimly lit apartment. My own voice echoed from the bedroom again, calm and steady. "You're late," it said. There was no anger in it. No rush. Just certainty. Like it knew this moment would come. I took one hesitant step inside, heart pounding so loud it felt like it filled the room. The air was heavy, thick, like walking into a place that no longer belonged to me. I reached the bedroom door slowly, my fingers trembling as I touched the handle. I pushed it open, half expecting an empty room. But there he was, sitting on the edge of my bed, wearing my clothes, looking through my phone. He looked up and smiled. Not the twisted grin from the mirror, but a perfect replica of mine. Calm. Natural. Familiar. "You're not supposed to be here," he said gently. "You gave me everything." I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. "What are you?" I finally managed. "I'm what you left behind," he replied. "The part of you that always wanted out. The version you buried behind routines and fear. You looked too long. You cracked the surface. I just stepped through." I took a step back, heart racing. "You can't have my life." He stood, slowly, and for a moment, we were face to face, two versions of the same man. "I don't need to take it," he said. "You already gave it up." Suddenly, I felt dizzy, like the room was spinning. My hands looked blurry, almost transparent. He reached past me and opened the closet door. Inside, the mirror. Untouched. Perfect. I turned to run, but my feet wouldn't move. He smiled once more and said, "Don't worry. I'll take good care of it." And then in an instant everything flipped. I blinked and found myself inside the mirror. Trapped. Watching him walk out of the room, my face, my voice, my life. And no one would ever know. Time doesn't work the same in here. I don't know how long it's been since I got trapped inside the mirror. Days, weeks, maybe longer. Out there, he lives my life. He eats my food, sleeps in my bed, smiles at my friends. No one suspects a thing. Why would they? He is me. Or close enough. From inside, I can see everything. I watch him move around the apartment. I see my phone light up with messages I'll never read. I see him laugh, cook, even talk to my mom like nothing ever happened. He's perfect. Too perfect.
No cracks.
No doubt. No fear. Just a flawless version of me. But sometimes, late at night, he turns toward the mirror and stares straight at me. Like he knows I'm still here. And he smiles, not cruel, not mocking, just calm. It's a look that says, "You had your turn." The woman from the diner was right. It didn't want to destroy me. It wanted me to witness. To understand what I could have been if I hadn't been so lost in fear, in doubt, in routine. And now I do. I see everything with more clarity than I ever did before. And yet, I'm powerless. I don't know if there's a way back. I don't know if anyone ever truly escapes once they're pulled in. But I've realized something. The mirror didn't create this thing. It just reflected what was already waiting to take over. The darker version. The braver version. The one I always kept hidden. So if you're watching this, if you've ever felt like your reflection lingers a second too long, if you've ever seen something in the glass that didn't quite feel like you, look away. Don't stare. Don't question. And whatever you do, never look at it long enough to let it in. Because once you do, it won't take your life by force. It'll wait for you to give it away.